Well, anyway, thanks for coming. I didn't think there'd be so many people here, but I hope I inspire you with my message today. And I'd like to start off with this statistic. If it really is a data-driven world, why is it that Nick Hudecker from Gartner says, whoops, where's the little gizmo to make it advance? I don't know if it's in my pocket or what. Okay, so 85% of all data science projects fail. Do we have the gizmo to advance the slides? Okay, so that's my question. If it's really a data-driven world, why is it that 85% of all data science and big data projects fail? I want to look at this statistic with you, and what I'm going to do is talk to you a little bit about the current state of data science and to provide to you an alternative way of looking at the field. Thank you. And then when I present the alternative view, I'm hoping that you will accept it and that we can play with how that will help you that are graduating from the program shortly, how you will be able to reach a state of prominence. Now, I've spent 30 years consulting with big corporations and helping them integrate data into their decision making. I worked for a lot of the big banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, Citi, Charles Schwab, Intuit, and then consumer packaged good companies, a lot of startups that you don't know about because they never made it. But anyway, basically I retired. And when I retired, I just could not get into knitting or crocheting or even house cleaning. It was really... So I did anything I could do to not have to do those things. So I started this Empathy Wise business, which really stems from my personality and my interest in people. And I run some design thinking workshops. I do some coaching of design thinking. But, and I'm pretty happy with that. So let me see. So the other thing I wanted to share with you was that that there were two experiences that I had recently that motivated me to come here. And one experience was as I was at a data science conference, and I was on stage with two other people. And the woman that was next to me, she told the audience that she had to go to her marketing group at her company before coming to speak because she didn't know what the company did. And she had been there for 5 years. Well, I thought that was pretty peculiar. And then the other incident was, I got some laughs up here, you probably know these people. I didn't know him. And then the other person was a man who spoke at a data science conference. I went to the conference, again, just to avoid housework and keep up to date. And this guy, he said that he was running his team, and he had this incredible project that he did. Everybody in the audience was really impressed. It was really amazing. And then at the end, in the Q&A, they asked him a little bit more about the project, and it became clear that it was never used. 4 years. And I don't know how you would feel about that, but if I was working for 4 years and nothing happened, I'd feel pretty awful. So anyway, it didn't fit the company's resources, and it didn't fit their processes. So I have to just, so I know it. So that's the structure of the speech. Now, the goal of my speech. My goal is for you, those of you that are graduating from the program shortly. I want you to leave feeling confident and empowered that you're going to do something about this 85% project failure rate. And I want you to feel empowered, even if you're sitting here today, feeling maybe you've got your doubts about your ability to be successful, or other people have doubts about your being successful. And I want to tell you a story that happened to me when I was in my MBA program. It was not as intense as your program. 1 year, that's intense. My program was very intense, but it was 2 years. So I got to know a lot of my fellow students. We took a lot of the same classes together. We worked on team projects together. And we had study groups together. I don't know if you do that, but we had some topics that were really difficult. So we actually were in study groups. Flash forward 25 years. I'm back at my alma mater, which was the University of Nebraska, and that was my first alma mater. My second one, where I got my MBA, was the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and I'm back for a football weekend. And we are all gathering, not everybody, but most of my classmates came back because we had a good time, and it was 25 years we were celebrating. And I was at one of the events, and one of my ex-classmates came up to me and said, "Catherine, did you ever think you were going to be as successful as you are?" Well, I was really like, what kind of question is that? And so I said to him, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "Well, it's just that when you were in the program, none of us thought you were going to be." So if you're sitting there today feeling that maybe you don't have quite the analytical panache or the coding panache of your fellow classmates, I basically want to say to you that it's going to take a bundles of skills to be successful in the data science world. And on that note, I want to start off and take a look at, from a macro view, what are people saying about data science? So see if this works. There we go. I was pushing the wrong button. Okay, so KPMG, you all know who they are. They're a big management company. What they say is that data science has been relegated to a silo, and that many organizations are unable to fully appreciate data science power to transform their businesses. And then this sentiment is echoed by Nick Hudecker, who gave us the earlier 85% failure rate statistic. And he points at upper management's inability to integrate data science initiatives into their existing businesses. And so they stay in isolation and have zero impact. The quote I really like is the quote from Dan Ariely. And Dan Ariely says, big data and data science is like teenage sex. Everybody wants to be doing it. Nobody really knows how to do it. Everybody thinks everybody else is doing it. So everybody claims they're doing it. So this is really kind of where we are with data science. So I want to go back now to this silo. And I'd like to hear from you what your thoughts are. Why? Thank you. Yes.
Because it's gained a lot of popularity over the past decade, and some companies are slow to figure out how to integrate it into all the aspects in a holistic manner.
Definitely. Great. Yes. Thank you.
Maybe because the people involved in strategy and management aren't familiar with data science and what it is, and people in data science aren't familiar with strategy of the management.
Did everybody hear these answers? They're great. Did you hear them? Yeah, you've got one too?
Data
Great.
scientists are too expensive.
And how's that, so they put them in a silo so they can't go shopping or what? I don't,
Well, I think you have to look at different industries. So in finance and in tech, it's a different scenario, in my opinion. But there's crickets in the rest of the industry. If you look at maybe manufacturing or travel,
I see.
data science isn't really doing anything there. Yeah.
because they can't afford them, is what you're thinking?
Well, data scientists are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's just a big gap between sort of the way businesses work right now and managers think in terms of business problems, and there's a disconnect, definitely.
Okay, all right. Well, these are all great. Thank you for that. Well, two of the things that I wanted to talk about that stood out to me in terms of the silo, and they were touched upon here by what people in the audience offered, and that is communications and cultural differences as being two of the big obstacles. And I have a video that I want to show you about communications. It's just a 3-minute video. It kind of went a little bit viral. So you may have seen it before, but I want to show it to you as representing what can happen in a large corporation when it comes to communication. And I want you to imagine it is a video of somebody giving a workshop at a hotel, it looks like. And there's a line of people and they're communicating. I want you to imagine the first people in the line are the executives who think they know what they want. And they're expressing it to the other executives, and they're expressing it on down the line, down the hierarchy of the business organization. And you're at the end of the line. You're the data scientist that receives the last communication. And I put a little music to this, so I may be very loud. If it is, maybe somebody can come up and help me. Okay, so. I don't know why. Well, anyway, imagine it without the music, I guess. I'm not going to have the music. I'm just shutting the music off. Okay, just watch the visuals. That's enough. Okay, so thank you for putting up. What are your thoughts on what this kind of exercise shows in terms of communications or lack thereof? Well, yeah.
If you have more direct interaction with more stakeholders at the same time, then they're all going to learn the same thing at the same time instead of diluted.
Did you have something to?
Yeah, the flip side of that,
Yeah.
every step along the way, there's something lost.
Yeah, and people have different ways of communicating as well. You know, you saw some people were moving more and some were, you know, kept it in tighter. And not that we're all speaking with sign language or anything or body language, but you know, it does play an effect, and it also creates a cultural challenge, which I believe you referred to in your comment. And the cultural challenge, this is the way I like to look at it. I think of the data scientists. I think of you, students in the room. I think of you as really highly trained technicians. You're knowledgeable about AI. You're knowledgeable about machine learning. You know multiple programming languages like R and Python, I guess, are your biggest two. You use various methods, algorithms. You use a lot of different mathematical modeling and statistical modeling. Anyway, you're very, very highly trained, in my opinion, especially coming out of this amazing program at University of San Francisco. And so here's how I view you. I view you as you have a tool belt full of very fancy, highly tuned tools that you can put to use to address various problems, to offer various solutions. Then on the other hand, you have the people in the C-suite. Now, maybe in California they're not wearing this kind of clothing, but they are in other parts of the world. And the C-suite has dollar signs in their eyes. They are looking at the bottom line. They're looking at the profits. And they're having to, you know, you have sympathy for them in a way because they're having to report to a board of directors. Now, these two groups, basically, you know, aren't really natural confidants. And it creates cultural challenges, and it creates problems with communication. And it really is one of the reasons that the full understanding and acceptance of data science into the integration into the big business really hasn't happened. Okay, so I'm sure you've heard of, not necessarily this book, but the idea of data science is really an art, or is data science as art. Well, the alternative view that I want to present to you today is, how about design? How about data science as design? Because if we can look at it as a design, then I would like to suggest that we could apply design thinking for data science. Now, how many of you are familiar with design thinking? Oh, okay. Well, I'm not going to spend a lot of time today because of our time constraints telling you about it, but I'll be happy afterwards if you want to give you some resources or ways to learn some more. But essentially, this is the phases of design thinking. You do an empathize stage, you define, you ideate, you prototype, and you test. You always start with the empathize stage, but it's a very iterative process. I think maybe agile, maybe a word that you know, that you iterate, you try, you test. But you always start with empathize, because empathize is that you try to totally understand the people that you're designing for. So I'm going to suggest that we look at data science as design, and what would a design thinking data science look like. Now, to give you something maybe a little more relatable, I got this off of a website called R for Data Science. And it's kind of a visual summary of what a data science project looks like. You import the data, you clean it up, you tidy it up, and I think would be the fun part. You visualize, you transform, you model, you explore the data, and eventually you communicate it out. Now on some of your projects, you may feel that this is more representative of your project where you're spending more time tidying than you are having the fun part and communicating it out. Or maybe even it looks like this. You're spending all your time doing data collection and tidying, and then the fun part is down here in the little teeny box, and then you communicate it out. I don't know if you can relate to that at all. So let's go back and look at this design data science project from start to finish. If you take a step back and you look at what are we really doing, could you say we're really designing a system and therefore can take advantage of some of the things that have to do with a design thinking approach? So that's my alternative view that I would like to suggest today. And I'd like to look a little bit about what are the skills involved if you were to become a design thinking oriented data scientist. So just to summarize, we started off, I looked at, like from a macro view, what's going on in the field and what were some of the reasons for that, being communications as well as cultural differences. And I suggested an alternative view. Now I'd like to move on to thinking about what would a data scientist look like that would embrace a design thinking approach. Because it is this kind of action, or I guess you could say focus, that I feel will lead you to a role of prominence in your field, make you stand out. So I'd like to suggest that we could call a data scientist that embraces design thinking, we'll call him a design thinking data scientist. And that's kind of hard to say, so I may get a little mixed up here with my words as I describe this. But what would it look like and what qualities would this person have? And I'd like to look at the first stage, the empathize stage. Of course, a person with a company named EmpathyWise, you would think I have a little bias towards this stage of the design thinking process, and I do. And what we do when we're doing a design thinking project is we try to know the people we're designing for at a real deep level. We want to really know what makes them tick. What motivates our users, and how do they think? Because people are oftentimes different. They're not all like you. So who would be the user in this situation as a design thinking data science? Who are your users? Your stakeholders in your company, the people that are going to be affected by your work. So what do we do when we approach a project as a design thinking data scientist is we need to empathize with our stakeholders. We need to interview them. I know it sounds a little hard, and you're not going to knock at the door of the president, but you have this in the back of your mind. You really want to understand who's going to be using what you're creating and where are they coming from. And you want to cultivate a high level of curiosity. You really, if you're curious about what's going to be done, then you'll be with the data or with the project that you're working on, then you'll be able to do a better job. Because I have this notion that people are asking you to do things, and you're being told to do things, and they have no idea what that tool belt of yours looks like. They have no idea how to tell you what to do. They can tell you what they need and what they're trying to achieve, but they can't tell you how to do it. So the more that you know what they need and what you're trying to achieve, the better you're going to be in your job. You're going to be able to provide a better solution. So one of the things that you'll benefit from if you really take the time to find out how your work is going to be leveraged throughout the company is that you're going to find yourself getting a higher level of buy-in. Meaning when you want to get a bigger budget or do something, you're going to get more yeses than nos. So let's look back at something that you're familiar with. Let's look back and say that you've embraced this designing a system. On the communicate end of it, I'm sure you've heard of the notion of being a good storyteller. I think it's part of your program is to understand how to deliver and how to communicate out what you've been working on. And in a design thinking parlance, we would call that your story out. And so where would the empathize stage occur if we're overlaying design thinking on a data science project? Well, it would occur down on this end. You would do your empathizing. And the reason you'd be doing it here is you want to get what we call, in design thinking, the story in. Now, the story in, if done well, will flavor your story out. Okay? So this brings up one of my projects that I did when I was actively working. I did a project for McKesson on Charmin toilet tissue, of all things. And I don't remember why, but for some reason, I was able to tape record all my interviews with my stakeholders. I didn't do them as a group, at a table. I actually, talked to all the stakeholders individually. And as I say, I can't remember why, but I tape recorded it. So when I was developing my story out, which I called my deliverable so I could get paid, I referred back to those audio tapes to make sure that I hit on every point that I had heard when I had done those interviews. And I found, and they weren't the same. One executive felt, looked at something one way and another one did the other way. So I just made sure I touched on all those topics so that I could get paid. And I found myself using the same vocabulary that they used because I had the audio tape. Well, I have to tell you that they thought I was brilliant. But I mean, it really, my deliverable was nothing different than I had been giving other companies, all along. But they thought it was so great. And I started thinking about it afterwards. I thought, that's because they basically heard themselves. They heard their own words. I put it in the way that they think. I put it through their lens, and so when they heard it come back to them, they're, whoa, she is one smart cookie. Not really. It just, I gave them what they wanted to hear. So I thought today that we could have a little fun and have you practice what it's going to take for you to develop empathy for your stakeholders. So I have some handouts here. I'll tell you, just wait a second. I'm going to have you take notes. So you're going to interview each other. But before we do that, do you want to give me some of those? I want you to imagine the last time you gave a gift. So I have the last time you gave a gift. So if you can, I don't know if in this big room you can do it, but I'm going to do it. Shut your eyes for a moment and just kind of get in touch with the last gift you gave. And from the moment that you knew you had to give that gift, what steps did you take? Did you shop? Did you physically shop? Online shop? What did you consider a lot of different things? Did you just consider one thing? And then what was the response when the person got it? Did you get any feedback on that? Et cetera, et cetera. The whole experience of the gift giving, your last gift. Okay, so now you're going to get a partner and you're going to interview them about the gift giving experience. What is very important is that you Um, look at the person. Look at their eyes. Parallel your shoulders. Come on. Find a partner. I won't. Well, you guys are way down here. I feel like, and he's asleep. So, and you're going to take notes. I don't know, maybe we don't have enough papers. Okay. All right. Yeah, just wait. Just wait. Okay, everybody find a partner. I had to come down to see if this end of the room is still listening. Okay. Okay. Woo-hoo, woo, woo, woo. Sorry. I'm sorry I didn't explain it well enough. Do you got your partner? You're facing each other. You're looking into each other's eyes. Now, the thing is, here's the deal. You've got to act in your own personality, in your own way. You have to express to the person you're interviewing that you are interested in what they have to say. Now, I want one person to be an A and one person to be a B, and the A's are going to go first. And if you didn't get a sheet of paper, just take some notes about what the other person's saying. And the key is to act curious. You're going to have 3 minutes. I'm going to have a digital clock up here, ticking the time away, and you'll hear a bong, and we'll change. Now, parallel your shoulders. I don't want somebody, to have their side to the person's face. Make sure you're really looking at them. Okay? Well, you two know each other. All right, so here goes. Okay, A's go. Okay, B's, it's your turn to interview A's, so switch rows, and I'll turn on the clock. I'm so glad this is over. Okay, we're going to go to round 2 now. Okay, I'm seeing some So I'm seeing some good interactions here. I see some people, especially over there, acting very, very curious with their partner. So now we're going to push the curiosity up another notch. Okay, so I wanted you to take what you learned from your first interview. A's will start and will follow by B. And I want you to take something that they said in their description and ask them why. And when they give you a response, I want you to ask them why. And if you can get to 5 whys, then you may be really getting somewhere. Because you see, I don't know if you're learning anything about psychology in here, but you know, you really don't get to know somebody and because they don't really know themselves. They're used to just kind of giving out something top of mind. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to dig deep to really see, you know, where they are and where they're coming from and what's important to them. So that's why we want to do the whys. And I want you to continue your great job of pretending, if you don't feel it genuinely, but pretending that you are curious. And square off with your partner. It's going to be 3 minutes for each, and then you'll be done. All right, A's start off. Okay, switch roles. B's ready to go? Go. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Lou, I saw a lot of great interaction here. I'm down to this end of the room because I think they trying to avoid participating. I better move that. All right. I'm going to go back a slide. Okay. So, how was that? Okay. What do you think? How was it for you? And you felt it? Wow, great. Woo! Okay.
Tree-wise, it was hard to dig talk to tree-wise, like when I have to get after an S becomes wide, it was hard to...
Okay, well, you got up to 3. You can work on getting to 5 next time. You know, Nick, if it was in a real work situation, you probably would get up to 5, you know, because you would really be curious, because you really want to be able to do your role. So, but you kind of get that feeling. And yeah.
I feel like there was just so much to talk about that it's hard getting deep because it's less effort and there's more reward in going and doing breadth first search.
Doing what?
Doing breadth first search. It was a joke.
Oh, okay. As long as you get it. How did your partner communicate to you that he or she was curious?
He asked me like specific questions that could only pertain to what I had told him previously.
So it meant he was listening. Yeah, right. And so how did it feel to be listened to? Lovely. Okay, great. Okay, so I mean, the exercise really is trying to hone some skills that you may not be getting with all the difficult classes you're taking here in school. But these are the skills that when you get out to work, that are going to really help you move into a level of prominence, which is why I came here to talk to you today. And if you reframe yourself as this data thinking scientist, it's really important that you understand the vision of your company. Let's see, do it in the next slide. Okay, let's see, let me think. Okay, so we've already went through that. What am I doing here? Oh, there it is. You really want to embrace the mission of your company. Let me just say that in 5 years, if I'm at a meetup or I'm at a design or a data science conference, and I see one of you up on stage, and you're telling the audience that you had to run, find out what your company did before you came to speak, I'm going to be very disappointed. So make sure you know what your company's doing and really understand where the people that you're trying to, in my opinion, design a solution for through your data science project, just what it is that they're trying to accomplish before you start pulling out all the tools in your tool belt. And to embrace, I'm wrapping up here, to embrace your company mission, you also have to commit to going beyond what you're asked to do. Because in my opinion, I don't think people that are asking you to do things really understand what you're capable of. So if you can really understand where they're trying to get, you're going to be better off. And let me give you an example of what it is to go beyond. I was giving a talk over in Berkeley. It was it was about fintech, how we used design thinking in fintech. And I met a woman who was a product manager at a fintech company that was delivering an offering to developing world. And she was new in her job, and she was, after the talk, she was basically complaining about her company. And the reason she was unhappy was because it became clear to her after 3 months there that the business strategy was not sustainable. Yeah, and so she also, because I was doing all my whys and probing her, I heard she mentioned that they had some internal data that she felt that if it was analyzed, that it would be able to support her point of view. So I offhandedly told her, well, you know, that's your job. You know, it's not your job, but you need to analyze that data. You need to put together a story, and even if it takes you time outside of your regular job, you know, this is how you're going to grow your career. And so then I was at a meetup about 8 months later, and I wasn't feeling too much like wanting to talk to people that night. I was pretty exhausted. And I was sitting, you know, basically kind of eating the dinner. It was a good dinner by myself. And all of a sudden, somebody's yelling my name, and it was this young woman. And she came up to me and she said she had done what I had said. It took her longer than she had intended because she had to do her regular job as well. But what happened for her, and it still gives me goosebumps when I think about it, it changed how people viewed her. They no longer viewed her as the new hire. They viewed her as somebody to bring into their strategy sessions. So all of a sudden, you know, 8 months, well, 8 plus 3, a year. Okay, she's at the table with the key people in her organization working on strategy. And so that wouldn't have happened, and she probably would have gotten bored with her job and just went and get another job. You know, everybody thinks the solution's another job. It's not always the case, but she made it a good job for her. So you want to go beyond. And on that note, I just want to say that, you know, putting yourself out there and interviewing people and engaging with them on a deep level is exhausting, you know. And so I just would like to advise you that if you do incorporate this type of strategy into your work, just to make sure you take time to take care of yourself and don't burn out, so that you have the energy to be able to do this when you're called to do it. So in wrapping up, what we talked about the current state of data science from a macro view and the opportunity it really affords you. The students graduating here is really what I'm thinking about. And we explored viewing data science as design. And we touched upon what that would look like in the empathy stage of design thinking. And I'll leave it to you or to another day to envision how the other stages of design thinking can be applied to the data science role. But I truly believe that by being a design thinking data scientist, that you will have you'll be a catalyst in the evolution of the design or the data science field, and that you will reduce that high number of what people consider failed projects, that 85%. And when you do these things, you, in my opinion, will have reached a level of prominence, and I wish you all the best. And I'm open for questions, or if anybody wants to do a Q&A.
Any questions for Catherine?
Yay! Oh, okay, yeah. Well, just one thing, and then I can share with you some more because I have them written down. But IDEO.org, IDEO.org. You can actually, have you gone there? Okay, IDEO has a nonprofit part of their business, and they actually, have videos and all that. And then there's another there's a company called Acumen, Acumen. They teach a free design thinking class, online class. So between IDEO.org, and then there's books, but I don't have those memorized. What? No, but it's a great, it's great they asked. Any other questions?
All right, let's thank Catherine.
All right.